top story this hour. Data made available by the National Bureau of Statistics shows that Nigeria's gross domestic product grew by 2.28% in the third quarter of 2019. This is 0.17 percentage points higher than the 2.12% revised GDP growth recorded in the second quarter. Now, the GDP report released shows that the average daily oil production in the quarter was 2.04 million barrels per day. A growth rate in the third quarter of this year represents the second highest quarterly rate recorded since 2016. And Rise Business Analyst Chika Mbonu joins me in the studio for more on this. Chika, good morning.
Good morning.
As always. So, good news considering the issues surrounding the border closures. So what accounted for this growth, and should we be joyful and merrymaking now at this rate?
Well, I mean, still below the projected CBN GDP growth of between 6 to 9%. All right. Still below our population growth of about 3%, which means our GDP per capita is going to be falling. But yet against the current fiscal challenges that we face in our country, is positive growth. Indeed, this growth in this Q3 represents the second highest growth we have had in the country in our GDP since the 2016 recession. So it's commendable. The highest so far has been the Q4 of 2018, when we had a growth of 2.38% compared to the 2.28% that we had in this Q3. And so compared to Q3 2018, there was an increase of about 0.47%. Compared to the Q2, the last quarter, which grew at 2.12%, there's an increase of 0.17%. So it's commendable. It's good news, and we're on the path to growth, hopefully, driven principally by, if you look at Nigerian economy can be broadly divided into two. We can call it the oil and non-oil sector, driven by positive trends in both sectors in our economy.
Very good, Chika. Now, just a one-off question here. It beat analyst estimates. So how significant is this growth?
It's very significant. Yeah. Indeed, somebody was asking me that did I expect, this kind of growth, and I said usually Q3 is for most times a robust moment in the growth in the economy. Okay. Sometimes we'll stagger for the first quarter, Q1. Stagger in the second quarter, and then try and make it up in Q3. And so I'm not surprised that this happened. And the interesting thing is that, a lot of people don't know that, oil tends to permeate, all our life. Yeah. But in our GDP, which is, in our country, oil barely contributes to about 10% of our GDP. In this period, it only contributed about 9.77% of the GDP, while the non-oil sector contributed to the balance of about 90.23%. Yeah. Basically.
All right, let's look at the increase still. Does this growth signpost any specific issues compared to other quarters?
Well, the growth does not, masquerade or mask, the challenges we have in the economy. Still, the fiscal challenges that we have in our economy are still there. And even the ones that, are coming shortly. The Senate in Nigeria has just passed second reading for the VAT Act. True. Basically, it's going to increase the VAT collection in the country from 5% to 7.5%, an increase in taxation burden on individuals and corporates. You will expect that when the economy is sluggish, what the government should actually be doing is to reduce the tax rate. But the tax rate is up to going here. That has not abated. You also have the new minimum wage issue, the implementation that the federal government has put out the release for the implementation immediately. And the inflation impact in our economy, remembering that the last inflation report that came out, inflation is on uptick to about 11.60%. I wouldn't know where that's headed. Then, of course, the issues with Apapa Port still remains there. Apapa Port issues and challenges still remain there. It's amazing that we have taken it as a part of our lifestyle, that, if you bring goods into the country or you want to clear goods now, it take you weeks to bring there, or you want to travel to Apapa now, it take you hours to go there, and it's taking now. And then, of course, the other issues, the border closure, even though there are some impacts positively in the country, we also forget that there are a lot of border trade and export and import happening across the borders. So against the other issues of our declining reserves, there's a lot of pressure on in the central bank now. True. The reserves are falling from a high $45 billion to hovering to a little below 39, below $40 billion now. So that's a lot of putting pressure. Indeed, CBN Governor Awoland was with some investors to reassure them that there's no issue like devaluation now. So against that background, those issues still surround the result that we just published. So, positive indeed for the economy.
Very good, Chika. And to add to just what you said, agriculture is also said to have played a role in this increase, as it were. So what do you make of that development?
Yeah, I mean, you do recall, as I said before, that when we pushed GDP, because everybody expects that oil will be the champion of our GDP in the country. True. Oil barely contributes about below 10% of our GDP. Indeed, agriculture contributes about 29.25% in this current GDP that came out. That's about 30% of that.
And despite the challenges inherent,
despite the challenges we still have in agriculture, basically it grew by 2.28% in the quarter three. This quarter three that we're reviewing, compared to 1.79 in quarter two 2019, and then last year at 1.91% of 2018.
All right.
We know that agriculture can contribute so much to the growth in our economy.
Yeah.
If we upscale, the kind of the methodology for farming in Nigeria, across the seeds, across the poultry, including the cattle, the report comes out to show that the yield in Nigeria is far lower than what we obtain in other climes.
Okay.
And so there's a challenge to make sure that the yield for the seeds in Nigeria increase. Again, also, agriculture should be done on a large scale, not in the subsistence nature that's been done now. So agriculture, if pursued rightly, will aid in the development of our economy.
Especially,
I don't know whether we talked about oil and gas.
No, well, let's delve into it. Talking about the growth factors regarding the GDP growth. So within the oil industry, what do you make of that development? I know you alluded to the fact that it only contributed 10% to it. But
it's important that because remember that about more than 90% of our foreign exchange comes from there. True. People don't understand the import of that. It actually means that since GDP oil contributes about 10%, the relevance of oil has to do with the fact that we are import dependent.
Okay.
It just means that if by happenstance we can produce what we eat, produce our fuel, we actually don't need anybody from.
So to a large extent, this is where the manufacturing issue also comes in as well.
Yeah. So, but be that as it may, the oil production this quarter was about 2.04 million barrels per day. Okay. This is the highest in the last 3 years. Last 3 years. So compared to last quarter, when it was about 2.02 million barrels per day, and then last year, 2018 comparable quarter was about 1.94 million barrels per day. This is commendable. So the increase to 2.04 million barrels a day accounted for the growth and contribution of oil to the GDP growth. In this quarter, it did about 9.77 to our GDP growth, compared to last quarter, about 8.98%, and then compared to last year of 9.38%, principally driven by this growth in the number of barrels per day produced of 2.04 million barrels a day, and which is the highest in the last 3 years for our country.
Yeah. Very good, Chika. I know you said this forecast falls short a little, below what we were expecting to do regarding the GDP. But do you think we could have done better?
Yeah, of course we could have done better. We always say that there are a couple of bottlenecks in the economy that limit growth. We'll take for industries, for example. Industries contribute to about 22.17% to our GDP. The challenges the industries face. High interest rates, which CBN has been trying to address now.
True.
Poor infrastructure. Literally every manufacturing company in Nigeria has its own power, has its own water, has its own, sometimes their own roads. All those need to be solved to enable our industries and their products become very competitive, and show that the issues of smuggling will not happen. Because if you have the products in Nigeria and are still more expensive than the landed cost of the imports, Nigerians will be, we chase those imports. So the limiting factors to growth in the industry, you will find the industrial associations always clamoring that this government should face these challenges. And we hope that the bundle of initiatives that the government had initiated in the power sector will help in raising the power availability to these industries. In addition to solving the logistic problems of moving the goods around the country, the roads are in a bad state. It's moving goods from Apapa Port now in a bad state. So the industrial sector needs to be helped to raise their contribution to the GDP of our country.
Very good, Chika. But I would like you to reflect on another issue which is lingering. This comes after a report by CBN showed forex outflows were higher than inflows and the recent fall in foreign external reserves. Godwin Emefiele, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, is trying to reassure investors that there is no cause for alarm. Now, the Apex Bank will meet all foreign exchange demands in as much as the nation's external reserves above $30 billion. The international price of crude oil does not go below $45 per barrel. Emefiele also assured investors that reserves are unlikely to dip below $30 billion, considering various policies of the federal government to diversify the economy, the report read. So there will be no need to devalue the naira currency. And I've still got Chika Mbonu with me here. So, Chika, what has given rise to these sound bites of devaluation? Should we be concerned at this rate?
Well, I mean, the thing is this, that for the first time this year, and the third time since 2016, when we had FX challenges in the country, the outflows, the inflows into our economy in foreign exchange have been below the outflows. So we have the net outflow, like in this quarter three, of about $3.73 billion. So it means that the money that came into our country in the foreign exchange is lower than what went out. And so if that happens, the Central Bank of Nigeria, remember, has been defending the dollar-naira exchange rate with all their blood, with everything that's at stake. And that means, again, that they will have to draw on our reserves to defend the dollars. And not surprisingly, therefore, our reserves are falling from a high $45 billion to hovering below $40 billion now. Right. And so that has put pressure, send out some feelers to the investors that let's not go back to the 2016 times when we had about $7 billion of accumulated foreign exchange earnings that airlines and other companies couldn't remit to their companies abroad. And so that's the fear. Remember, our economy is driven by these foreign investments. So the fear is that these investors, that if they bring their dollars into the country to buy treasury bills or bonds and so on and so forth, when the bonds mature, will they get the dollars to remit it to their foreign countries? So that's the major that's the fear, and that's why the CBN governor has to reassure them that won't be the case.
Reassurance indeed. Chika Mbonu, I'd like to thank you very much for those issues and your thoughts on them. It's good to have you as always.
Thank you.